You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Greetings, this is Reverend Paul, and this, of course, is Studio Chojin Raw. Today, I thought we could try to do something different. I got a couple of videos that are already recorded. They just need to be edited. I have videos on Cowboy Bebop, both the original show and the Netflix show. I recorded a video with Fairly on Perfect Blue. Those videos just need to be edited, and I need a little bit more time to finish them, but I still wanted to put out a video this week, and I thought this is a good opportunity to talk about something that I've been meaning to talk about. So a while back, somewhere, I said nothing is original. I don't remember where I said this, if I said it in a video or I said it on Twitter, and to be perfectly frank, I don't even remember saying that at all, but it does sound like something I would say, and somebody actually DM'd me and they asked me if I could elaborate on that. What did I mean by nothing is original, and does originality exist? And when I responded to them, I told them, you want to know what? The more I think about this, the more I think this might be an interesting topic for a video, so rather than respond to you here in the DMs, I think it might be cool to pontificate about this idea on YouTube. So here we are. So just a quick video talking about originality, and does originality exist? So the burning question is, does originality exist? And if it does, what makes something original? I think the answer to that question depends entirely on how you want to define originality. If you want to define originality as something that is completely unique, like ideas that have never existed before and concepts that have never existed before and something that has just literally been made up right now, I don't think that exists. And if it does exist, if it's even possible to do something like that, I think art that is being made from that perspective would be fucking terrible. And the reason being is because I think the key element for a work of art, whether it be a movie or a comic book or a song, I think the key element for a work of art to be successful, I think it needs to be relatable. I think the audience needs to have a way to connect with it. If you made a movie about entities that nobody had ever seen before and they communicated in ways nobody understood, and the film was about concepts nobody ever heard of, and it took place on a location that nobody recognized, that would be original, but it would be weird as fuck. It would be like an alien film. It would feel like some weird oddity from another world. It might be cool as a novelty, but I don't see how anybody could ever connect to something like that. It would just be too weird and too bizarre. So in that regard, I think that's why a lot of art covers a lot of the same ideas. How many love songs are there? How many movies are there about revenge? How many movies are there about being depressed or whatever? I mean, the reason people keep making these movies is because these are all ideas we could relate to. And in that regard, I think this is where we get to the true idea of what originality is. Now, going back to my original statement when I said originality doesn't exist, I think that's a bit hyperbolic. You know, it's a bit of a hyperbolic thing to say. It's a bit cynical, and I don't really agree with it. I was probably in a bad mood when I said it, and that's why I said it. I do think originality exists, but originality is not inventing ideas or inventing things from nothing. Originality is just kind of like combining ideas and maybe even bringing a point of view that is underrepresented. So, in other words, every artist that exists, whether they be a director or a writer or a painter, they are all influenced by other people. One of my favorite guitar players of all time is Buckethead. I think Buckethead is the greatest guitar player, and he has a very unique style. But if you listen to enough Buckethead, you could hear his influences. Buckethead has completely stolen riffs wholesale from Randy Rhoads, and there's plenty of like Buckethead riffs that sound a lot like Yngwie Malmsteen, you know? And if you're not familiar with these artists, you might just think Buckethead is making these riffs up, but he's not. He's borrowing these ideas from his heroes, but Buckethead isn't merely copying Randy Rhoads and Malmsteen. Sure, he's borrowing some of their riffs, but he's recontextualizing them. So he's adding elements of funk, he's adding elements of jazz, he's combining all these different musical elements to create a musical sound that is very much his own. There's a quote by the great wrestling manager Jim Cornette that goes something to the effect of, stealing from one place is theft, but stealing from a lot of places is research. And that's what I think the core of originality is. Originality is taking a bunch of different ideas ideas and combining them to create something that is different. I think a great example of this is fighting games. And think about the way early 90s fighting games all kind of were covering the same material, but found ways to differentiate each other. Because for the most part, I mean, like, look, the core element of a fighting game is two fucking characters on screen hitting each other with shit. But you look at the way Capcom decided to contextualize a fighting game with Street Fighter, with this anime aesthetic and emphasis on combos. Then you look at the way people like Boone and Tobias approached the fighting game with Mortal Kombat, where it was much more special move orientated. And rather than have an anime influence, it had kind of an Enter the Dragon, Big Trouble in Little China influence. And at the same time, there was also the Fatal Fury games, which was taking a fighting game and incorporating elements of a beat 'em up and having more of a story than any of their three fighting games at the time. None of these things in and of themselves are quote unquote original. Beat 'em ups existed, Big Trouble in Little China existed, anime existed. I mean, all these things existed, but the originality came, and what made these things original was the way they were reinterpreted in the context of a fighting game. Like I said, that is the core of what I think originality is, just taking different ideas, putting them together, and the more ideas you combine, the more quote-unquote original your concept is. And I think a great example of this is Gunbuster, where Hideki Anno is, he's literally stealing plot elements from Aim for the Ace, but he is taking this tennis show and recontextualizing it into a mech show. And then he's using those ideas as a springboard to tell a space opera story. And so, like, that to me is the essence of what originality is. And even the point of view that you're bringing, I always tell people, when you're making videos, the only commodity you have is your point of view. The only thing you can do that nobody else can do is you can tell me your opinion. As an artist, as a creative person, the only currency you really have is your point of view. It's the only thing that separates us from everybody else. But even with that said, within the millions or billions of people that exist in the world, there are gonna be people out there that have the same point of view as you, but that point of view might be underrepresented. So taking that underrepresented point of view and putting it in a new context, I think that's a way to be original as well. And I think a good example of this is Robert Morales's Truth, Red, White, and Black, which is taking the true story of the Tuskegee Airmen who were wrongly experimented on by the government, and it's recontextualizing that story in the context of a Captain America story. And Truth, Red, White, and Black is a very interesting original take on Captain America, and it's one of the best takes on Captain America. Yeah. So does originality exist? Yes, it does exist. I hope this makes sense to people. Hopefully this wasn't a rambling mess. If you're so inclined, I mean, this is what you're supposed to do as a YouTuber, right? You're supposed to throw it back to the audience. So let me know what you think about originality. Do you think originality exists? How would you define something that's original? Do you think my opinion is just a bunch of gobbledygook? I'm happy to hear it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's all I got to say about this right now. Short video this week, but more videos are on the way, and no mailbag this week. We'll take care of that later. So yeah, that's all I got to say. So this is Reverend Paul saying, until we meet again.